Woman holds both her eyes in hand, eyes that were plucked out because of her unshakable devotion to God. But for some reason, she is still depicted with her eyes intact in modern art and statues. How is that possible, and why would someone do such a thing in the first place? The simple answer might be an act of faith and obedience to God. But there is so much more to this ancient story, a story that has been handed down for nearly 2 millennia, stretching back to the 3rd century. In a time when Christianity was not tolerated, when confessing Christ could mean torture, persecution, and death, Christians were hunted, mocked, and forced to abandon their faith or face the consequences. Among these martyrs was a young Christian woman from Syracuse, Sicily, a woman whose courage would etch her name into the history of the church. Her name was Saint Lucia, known to the world as Saint Lucy of Syracuse. She was not afraid to declare her faith publicly, neither ashamed to stand firm in the face of cruelty. But because of that choice, she would be tortured in ways few can imagine. Some accounts say her eyes were torn out by her persecutors. Others claim that she removed them herself to reject worldly admiration and protect her vow of purity. But in every version of the legend, her eyes become a powerful symbol of sacrifice and of spiritual vision far greater than simple physical sight. And yet, after death, tradition says her eyes were miraculously restored, a testament not only to suffering, but to the triumph of faith. Starting from a very young age, Lucy made a vow not to pursue wealth, status, or marriage, but to dedicate her life to Christ. She longed to be a faithful servant of God, giving herself fully to prayer, worship, and humble service. As she grew older, her mother urged her to marry, not from a sacramental perspective, but out of a belief that marriage would secure a comfortable life and a family. When her mother began arranging a marriage for her to a wealthy pagan suitor, Lucy saw that her vow meant nothing to him. She knew that no argument about faith would convince her mother, so she took a bold step of her own. Lucy spent days in fervent prayer at the tomb of Saint Agatha, another Sicilian martyr. Then upon one night, she received a vision, a dream in which Saint Agatha promised that Lucy's mother would be healed by faith. When Lucy awoke, her mother was indeed miraculously cured. Lucy used this moment not to only praise God, but to persuade her mother to give away their wealth to the poor and to allow Lucy to commit herself entirely to God. Both Lucy and her mother rejoiced in this blessing, but the rejected bridegroom did not. Enraged by Lucy's refusal and loss of her family's wealth, he denounced her to the Roman governor, accusing her of being a Christian during a time when that would mean death. What followed after was a string of brutal attempts to break her will. First, authorities tried to drag her into a brothel as punishment for refusing to renounce her faith. But tradition says that she became immovable, as if rooted to the earth, even when the guards hitched her to oxen. Next, they heaped wood around her and tried to burn her, yet the flames refused to consume her. In many other medieval accounts, her tormentors then gouged her eyes out, either as punishment or to silence her fearless gaze. In some other versions of the legend, Lucy removed her own eyes rather than let admiration for them become a distraction from her vow. However it happened, the loss of her eyes became central to her legacy. After her martyrdom, her body was being prepared for burial. Those who were present were astonished to find that her eyes were miraculously restored, untouched and whole, a testament to divine intervention and the power of her witness. But this wasn't the only miracle that occurred with her remains. A Belgian monk in Gembloux named Sigebert wrote Sermo de Sancta Lucia, in which he described Lucy's body as remaining undisturbed in Sicily for 400 years. It was later removed by Emperor Otho I in 972 to Metz and left in the Church of St. Vincent. There is much confusion about what happened to her body after its stay at St. Vincent's, but it is believed that several pieces of her body can be found in Rome, Naples, Verona, Lisbon, Milan, Germany, France, and Sweden. In the late 20th century, St. Lucy's legacy yet took another strange turn. On November 7, 1981, two armed men broke into the Church of San Gedemia in Venice and stole most of her mortal remains, leaving only her head behind. Then on December 13th, her very feast day, the missing bones were found abandoned in a sack outside Venice and returned to their resting place, as if guided back by some unseen force. Some saw it as a providence, others as coincidence, but the timing, found on the very day the world honors her sacrifice and light, remains eerie. Was it merely chance or something more? A saint known for her vision, whose relics disappeared and reappeared on a day of light and darkness.